What's up, folks, and welcome to Indie Ramble. So, all right, have you heard of this tiny little game called Vampire Survivors? Yeah, not too many people have, I don't think, but I hear it's kind of going places. And well, yeah, because of that, Vampire Survivors has spawned an absolute deluge of clones. And that's basically because Vampire Survivors, for as fun as it is, was relatively easy to make. And a lot of people have been attempting to cash in on that in various different ways. Some have been better than others, but there is no doubt that there are a lot of them now. And well, this is the latest one that's come across my desk. So this is Geometry Survivor. And well, the easiest way to talk about it is, what if Vampire Survivors, but also Geometry Wars? That's pretty much what we got here. So I'm going to show this off to you guys. There's not a lot to show if you know what the genre is. I say it's like Vampire Survivors. It's kind of its own genre now. Some people call it auto survival games. Some people call it reverse bullet hell, which I don't think is actually a very good descriptor. It doesn't really have a formal thing yet. But you know how back in the 90s, after Doom came out, every first-person shooter was a Doom clone for a while? That's kind of what people are saying now. But this kind of goes a little bit further, because everyone puts the bloody word survivors in their name as if to be like, hey, you remember Vampire Survivors? Yeah, it's like that. Yeah. And that they didn't do that with Doom clones back in the day. So, but as you can tell by looking at this, if you're familiar with the legendary Geometry Wars series, then you know what you're looking at here. And it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a Vampire Survivors like game with a Geometry Wars aesthetic. There's not too much more to say about it. It plays like that. You take out a bunch of enemies, they drop experience. You get enough of that experience, you get to unlock one of a series of different upgrades that you can use for your ship. Some of these are actually pretty cool. I'm going to show some of them to you as we go here, but some of these are fairly unique. And your goal is to survive for as long as possible. That's pretty much it. And in addition to unlocking different weapons within your run, you pick up these little items as well, which also serve as currency, and you can use those to get different permanent unlocks, as well as different ship types that you're able to get through a shop off the main menu. So, and you can survive for up to 20 minutes. And that's as long as a run can be. You want to try to get to that point, but if you don't, you do still get to keep the stuff that you've collected. It's all pretty box standard, right? Now, I will tell you that, one of the things about Geometry Wars that was sort of amazing about its design, right, is that it started off very easy, but the difficulty would very quickly ramp up to the point where it got absolutely gnarly after just a few minutes. This aims to do that, but I found it's frankly not that difficult. I completed a full 20-minute run of this after less than an hour of playing it from the very beginning. Now, you can play this over and over a number of different times to get all the different unlocks and to experiment with different kinds of runs and things like that. But it definitely doesn't have the depth of Vampire Survivors. Every character in Vampire Survivors plays very differently from each other. Now, I haven't unlocked any of the other characters yet because I've been spending my money on other things, but it gives you I'll show you that menu. It gives you a description of each one, and really they slightly change their power-ups and abilities, but they're all fairly similar to each other. There's also only this one map. It's not really a map, right? It's just an arena. Now, to be fair, if you're trying to emulate Geometry Wars didn't have much of the arena to its arena. It was just a big square box. The thing about that was avoiding the enemies and their different behaviors more than battling with the arena itself. So I can kind of understand that, but there is still only the one thing here. And as you can see, in Vampire Survivors, pretty much every enemy just came straight at you. That's not really the case here. This does have the thing with Geometry Wars is every enemy in that game had almost its own personality. Those friggin' cowardly green blocks, man. Oh, I friggin' hated those. And while these ones do generally all come at you, they do so in different ways. And some things don't come straight at you. Some things kind of hang out on their own. Nothing really actively runs away from you like it does in Geometry Wars. So it's, the enemies do have a little bit more of their own personalities here that you can learn and manage compared to some of the other games in the genre. But yeah, the concept is very, very similar, but to me, this doesn't really have the depth and definitely not the difficulty of a Vampire Survivors. I'm playing this on the Xbox. This is on all sorts of different platforms. I can't speak to PlayStation, but I can say if you're one of those people who, you know how there's a lot of these Xbox and PlayStation games lately that are like the bare minimum amount of game, but they all have achievements that you can unlock with almost no effort. You can get yourself 1,000 points with barely even trying. That's pretty much what this is. This game has 20 achievements worth 50 gamer score each, and each one you get for surviving an additional minute. If you complete a full 20-minute run in this, which as I said took me less than an hour, you get 1,000 points. So Vampire Survivors is one of those games where even people who aren't into achievements actually really like it, because there are not only so many achievements, but they're really cleverly designed and require you to do some pretty, in some cases, very specific things in order to unlock them. No, this is, if you can get through 20 minutes, you get 1,000 points. So if you're one of those people for whom that's a big deal for you, like who are those hardcore achievement people, then hey, you know, this will work for you as well. And that's the thing, there's nothing egregious about this. Some of these survivor type games that are coming out now are absolutely horrific. You know, they are absolutely just cashing in on a trend and using it as a reason to pump out shovelware. This is not doing that. This is definitely, you know, someone who understood the two main source materials that they were working with, I guess. And it's blended together pretty well. I like the color scheme in this. I like the neon contrast works really well. You know, it runs well. I mean, I should hope so, but it does run pretty well. There is a decent number of power-ups that are quite a bit different and from each other and can really affect how your runs go. And there are a decent number of alternative ships that you can unlock. You can play this over and over again if you want. But the thing is, it's not a score attack game. There's no scoring system in this, so there's no leaderboards or anything like that. Once you've got all the achievements, unless you just want to unlock everything, there isn't too much more to do in this. I think a cool way they could have made a twist on this to make it stand out a little bit more was if, like Geometry Wars, it had a scoring system so that your objective was not only to survive for 20 minutes, but to try to take out as many enemies as you could, because they would all be worth different point values, and then you could compete on leaderboards with that. You know, in something like Vampire Survivors, once you maxed out your level, you were free to avoid enemies if you wanted, and in some cases with certain characters on certain maps, that was to your benefit to do so. And in this, it doesn't really matter if you avoid enemies or attack them head on, because there's no score. So I think they could have come up with a cool way to make this Vampire Survivors, but also mashed with that score attack compulsion that is what really made Geometry Wars such an addictive experience back in the day. I would have loved to have seen something like that. I think that could have turned this from just another Vampire Survivors clone, you know, auto shooting survival game, into something that had a bit more of its own identity. As this is right now, like I said, not a bad game at all, even as Vampire Survivors clones go. And I really shouldn't be saying that, because like I said, I kind of, you know, bemoaned that at the start of the video, people using that clone analogy. But even as one of these kinds of games go, it's not bad. I've played a lot worse, but to me, there's just nothing that really stands out about it. You know, is it as fun a Geometry Wars game as Geometry Wars? No, I'd rather play that. As auto shooting survival games go, it's a fine one. I'd probably just rather go back and keep working on achievements in Vampire Survivors, or play Halls of Torment or something like that. You know, there's nothing about this that makes me want to play this one over the games that it's using as its source material, I guess. So here it shows you what you picked up. It does keep statistics, which is kind of cool. It keeps global statistics as well. I always like it when games do this. I think it's kind of a cool thing. And yeah, here's the shop. So you have all these different upgrades that are worth different amounts. Obviously, you can level them up further, and doing so will cause, will increase the cost of each one. It's all pretty normal stuff. It will increase, mostly gives you benefits for each time you level up in the game, or up your rank as they call it. So things like that. It helps with starting health as well, things like that. And then here you do have the ability to buy the other ships. As you can see, randomly picks upgrades every time you level up. Doubles the credits you collect at the end of the run, but requires double the amount of XP to level up. So interesting little difference here, right? Starts with 1 health. So it gives you some options here. So let's grab one of these and give that a go. So it does its own cool little things, but to me, this feels competently put together, but that it's also not stretching the boundaries of this new genre at all, and is really just, I hate to say it, but if you want to just say that something is a Vampire Survivors clone, that's really what this feels like to me. It just feels like something that understands its source material, but also doesn't innovate in any way. It feels like a very safe one of these. But it's nonetheless a good one. So that's why I wanted to show it to you. Even if you're not an achievement nut, this could be fun to pick up if you just want something to pick up and play for a little while, that, and you want to play it a certain way where it'll give you a little bit of a challenge and some customizability, and has a nice look to it. But at the same time, if you haven't played Vampire Survivors, that is the OG. I have played no new games in that genre that can top it. Go get that. It's dirt cheap, and it is still truly amazing. Really incredible experience. But if you've exhausted that, if you've wrung every drop out of it and are looking for more, there's certainly a lot of them these days. And like Halls of Torment was cool in its own way, but it innovated a lot more than this one did. But what we have here is Vampire Survivors mixed with Geometry Wars, and that's pretty much what it says on the tin in terms of what it is, and it does exactly that. So, not gonna fault it for that. It's just not something I think I'm gonna remember too long after I've made this video. So yeah, that is Geometry Survivors. It is out now. I think it's on a whole bunch of platforms, but the title will say down below. Yeah, give it a look. It's not bad, but compared to Vampire Survivors, it's still few things compare against that, and I'm probably going to go back to playing that after this, to be honest with you. So thank you guys very much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you like what you saw here, please do all the normal YouTube things. Those do help out a great deal. Leave a comment and tell me, what do you think of this? Does this interest you a little bit more than I made it sound? There are so many of these games out there right now. What are some of your favorites? I know there's a lot of other ones, and I haven't nearly talked about all of them. So I'd love to know some that you maybe think I should check out. That'd be interesting. And you can follow me over at twitch.tv/pxabstraction. Streams are going to be coming back soon, TM, and I'm going to be focusing on retro stuff there, over there, tackling what I call my deep backlog. We have a great little community there, and I'd love to see you be a part of it. Thanks again to all, and I'll see you on the next Indie Ramble. Folks, have yourselves a good one. Take her easy.